You know, it's kinda weird how despite loving Pokemon so much, I don't really talk about the series that much on my channel. I bring it up occasionally, but I don't think I've ever dedicated a full video to one of the games. However, that all changes today by talking about one of the spin-offs. Yeah, honestly, I don't really know where to begin with the main series, so I decided to focus on one of the mini spin-offs today. There's like 12 billion of them, and there's a lot of variety to choose from, such as the Mystery Dungeon series, which I'll probably talk about at a later date. But for this video, I want to give the spotlight to what I believe is the most underrated in the series, Pokemon Conquest. For those of you who don't know about this game, which is probably a lot of you, it takes the normal RPG and monster collecting elements from the main series and molds them into a tactical RPG. Okay, so for baby terms, y'all ever play Fire Emblem? Yeah, it's like that, but with animals. And also, it's good. Actually, a much more fitting comparison would be to the Nobunaga's Ambition series, because Pokemon Conquest is actually a crossover between that and Pokemon. I've never played any of those games, but considering how much I like this one, perhaps I should give it a shot sometime. Anyway, Conquest was released really late into the DS's lifespan. It actually came out after the 3DS was released. I mean, heck, they even advertised it on the back of the box that the game was, in fact, playable on the 3DS. I greatly appreciate the clarification. Yeah, a tactical RPG spin-off released on a system that was succeeded more than a year prior sounds like a recipe for selling as well as sugar-free sugar. But considering backwards compatibility, I don't really think this was a bad idea at all. Alright, that's enough talking about random stuff. I should actually play the game now. By the way, in order to record my own footage of the game, I had to... But before any of y'all tell my mom about it, I do in fact already own the game myself. So yeah, I win. Alright, so making a new save, you gotta choose a protagonist, and I know this might sound strange, but I went as the chick because the guy looks like a dork, and the last time I checked, I'm not a dork. Considering my obvious disdain for women, this may seem out of character for me, but don't worry folks, this is an exception and I'm doing completely fine mentally. The game takes place in the region of Ransai, a region made up of several kingdoms where warriors and their Pokemon battle to gain control over said kingdoms. One day, you're just randomly put in charge of the Kingdom of Aurora when it suddenly comes under attack from a neighboring kingdom. So now, the fate of my nation relies entirely on a dog-fox thing and a balloon. With the assistance of another warlord, Orchi, I really hope I'm not mispronouncing that, and her partner Jigglypuff, Aurora is successfully defended, and Orchi realizes that world domination is actually a pretty cool idea. No, actually, she tells the player of the Legend of Ransai how if a warlord was to conquer and unite all of the kingdoms, that the Pokemon that created the region would show itself. This legend arose tension among the inhabitants of Ransai and caused more and more battles, because everybody wanted to be the person to unite all of the kingdoms and see if the legend was true. After dealing with other warlords, such as Hideyoshi, as well as conquering their kingdoms, the player eventually learns of the formidable Nobunaga. He's a warlord who's already conquered about half of the kingdom and is supposedly intent on destroying the whole region. So now it's up to you to battle, gain control over various kingdoms, and recruit several of the most powerful warlords in the land to stop Nobunaga and his grand army. So yeah, the story is pretty serviceable, and nothing all that special though. A lot of the dialogue in this game is kept to a bare minimum, more so in the latter half, where pretty much every encounter can be summed up as, "Wait, you wanna do what with my kingdom?" Oh, okay. But honestly, I'm kind of fine with this being the case because it just means that I can get to all of the fun gameplay with very little fluff in between. And man, let's talk about that gameplay. As I stated earlier, this game is a tactical RPG, though it's quite unlike any other one I've ever played due to various mechanics. Now of course, like I mentioned earlier, we're trying to become the hero of Ransai, and to do so, we're going to have to capture all the kingdoms across the land. You start with the kingdom of your own, and from there you can invade adjacent kingdoms to start a battle. Your army will start off pretty, lacking at first, but as you claim more kingdoms or do normal battles, you'll start recruiting more and more warriors. You can have up to 6 warriors in one kingdom at a time, and each of them will be able to perform one action every in-game month. This can include doing some training, mining for gold, or doing the exhausting task of shopping. Imagine if you went shopping in real life, and when you got done, you went home and already just bought a box of Cheez-Its from the gas station, so I guess I'm gonna go hibernate now. The most important thing for you to do, though, is, of course, conquering other kingdoms. These are where the most major battles will take place, as here the warlords will command very organized teams, and the maps themselves will be a lot more complicated. The battles play out like they would in other games of this genre. You'll move each of your Pokemon across the map like a game of chess. You'll either have to defeat all of the opposing Pokemon, or do another task such as claiming banners scattered across the battlefield. Like in the main series, each Pokemon has their own moves and abilities, and type effectiveness is present here as well. The moves here, however, can actually cover multiple tiles, so you really have to plan out your positioning. Say for example, if I'm using Fire Blast, I'll want to position my Pokemon in a way that'll make the move hit multiple targets, doing the most damage possible, while also making sure it doesn't hit one of my own. You also have to keep stage terrain and hazards in mind as well, stuff that'll damage you or move your Pokemon somewhere where you don't want them to be. Oh no! Each warrior also has their own ability that they can use once per battle to help their Pokemon out. This can include temporarily increasing stats, giving them a higher chance to get crits, doing your taxes. They can really turn the tides of battle, like that one time I completely cheesed the Greenleaf battle. Man, Motonari, maybe if you weren't reading dumb books and instead read How to Not Stupid, then maybe you wouldn't have just lost your home in the world's quickest game of Capture the Flag. After each battle, the warriors will get more link points with their Pokemon, making them stronger, and you'll also claim that kingdom for yourself. I mean, you won't claim it if you're on the defending side, of course, because, you know, you kind of already have it. Also, just like the main series, if your Pokemon gets strong enough, or you have the right item, then it'll evolve, making it even stronger and giving it new abilities or moves. This is a really solid battle system, all things considered, with all the fun of raising Pokemon in there as well. Though there are some issues I do have with it, and now they might sound major, but they're not that severe. Okay, so for one, you know how people make jokes about how certain Pokemon are capable of these insane feats, overwhelming power and intellect and whatnot, yet they can only have 4 moves at a time? Okay, so imagine if the Pokemon were even stupider. Each Pokemon can only have 1 move, and I don't mean 1 at a time. I mean that every single Pokemon has a singular assigned move that cannot be changed. Every Jigglypuff has Double Slap. Every Lapras has Ice Beam. Every Staraptor has Brave Bird. And every Golisopod has AIDS. This can really hurt the viability of certain Pokemon. While some have amazing moves, others have ones that are outright bad with no way to cover for it aside from relying on your other units. Munna, for example, can only learn Hypnosis, which not only has an unreliable hit rate, but all it does is put you to sleep. This means that if Munna is your last remaining Pokemon, then you literally cannot win under certain circumstances. I love Staraptor and I think it's great in this game, however, it only has Brave Bird, which puts it in a bad position after use. Not to mention, on certain slopes or other kinds of terrain, moves will just be downright unusable if they have an awkward range. But the worst case of this is Rhyperior, which is downright useless when you get it. You'll always recruit Kenshin and Shingen in the main story, and they have some pretty powerful Pokemon. Well, Kenshin at least. There's literally no reason to not use Kenshin in his Gallade, it's almost broken, but the same most certainly cannot be said for his rival's Rhyperior. It has pitiful range, making a grandma trudging through molasses look like the fastest thing alive, and its move is Rock Wrecker, which not only has below average accuracy, but if it does hit, then Rhyperior can't use it again for another turn. It's just so sluggish and tedious to use that I simply didn't bother with it for my playthrough. I used it like once or twice just to get footage. Oh yeah, and for this playthrough, I literally spent most of the game with Jinchio's Luxio unevolved just because of this dumb discharge strategy I started using halfway through the game. Like, Luxio and Jolteon are just a match made in heaven. Jolteon powering up Luxio and Luxio healing Jolteon Pokemon with Discharge. And unfortunately, that strategy cannot be replicated with Luxray due to it having Thunder instead. Now, I'm pretty sure the reason why Pokemon here only have one move is probably just to simplify the game for younger audiences. And I'm not saying that kids are too stupid to make strategies and stuff, I just think that if this was your first tactical RPG, then the more stuff you had to keep track of, the more confused you could get. I mean, heck, there were times I didn't really account for certain things and forgot to cover blind spots, and you're going to be even more prone to that with less experience with this genre. I mean, this was my first tactical RPG, so maybe this design choice was for people like me to make the game not so complicated. Also, this limitation could be here to encourage experimentation, trying out other Pokemon and Warlords, plus not just trying to steamroll a whole army with one Pokemon, which still happens anyway, but I digress. Now, I do at least wish that there was an option to change between a few moves with each of the Pokemon, but honestly, it's not that big of a deal. One thing that is annoying though is that whenever you're fighting a Pokemon, this damage indicator will appear above them. It will show you how much damage you'll deal to the Pokemon as well as the accuracy of the attack that you're about to use. Something that's kinda neat is depending on the position of your Pokemon using the attack, these two numbers can change. But something I don't like is that that damage indicator is not just a solid damage indicator, it's your damage range. So this means that the opponent's Pokemon can have 14 health left, your move says it'll deal 14 damage, and it instead deals 13 damage when you execute it. This is really stupid. I've never seen any other tactical RPG do this, and I would greatly appreciate it if it wasn't in the game, because it's cheated me out of a lot of kills. Oh yeah, with that previous tangent over with, you might be wondering if you can actually catch any more Pokemon. And the answer is... well, yeah, obviously. If you want a Warlord to recruit a new Pokemon, then you can go into one of the kingdoms and find a wild area, or whatever you want to call it. Here you can find stray warriors to recruit and the wild Pokemon. Now, the natives of Ransai are a lot more dignified, and they don't stuff animals into gumballs. Instead, you have to link with them. You casually approach the Pokemon and start up this little mini-game to link with them. It's kinda like a rhythm game. If you're able to max out the link bar over the course of the battle, then you'll be able to recruit the Pokemon. Personally though, I don't really bother with this that much. I've played RPGs before where you just main one class for the whole game, and it's usually difficult to switch to another one, and yeah, this is sort of a similar case. I only really have a warrior stick with one Pokemon, and if I'm catching another one, it's usually just for fun, or because their other Pokemon is so bad it just becomes a hindrance. So that's why I traded Orchi's Jigglypuff for Lapras, and I never looked back. Well, actually, there is one other reason for you to recruit other Pokemon, and that's because of perfect links. Alright, I need to do a little bit of explaining first. Basically, there are a lot of generic warriors throughout the game, but as you'll notice, a lot of the leaders of the kingdoms are actually unique warlords and real characters. If you fulfill certain conditions during the battle, then you can recruit them. You can even find them roaming in wild areas if you didn't recruit them beforehand. These guys are not only better because of their stats and abilities, but they also have perfect links. Perfect links are essentially their perfect partner Pokemon, and they're able to achieve, let's say, higher potential with these perfect links. They even show up in the Warlord's portraits. Just look at that big ol' happy Rhyperior. Now, some Warlords start off with their perfect link Pokemon, but for others, you'll have to actively look for them. Or look them up online. Something I really like about this system is that some Warlords will start off with a really strong Pokemon, but their perfect link is actually something completely different. For example, I think when you first gain control over Masamune, he starts off with a Scizor, which is a really great Pokemon to start with. However, that's not his perfect link. The Rufflet line is, so you're going to have to find one and start using that instead if you want his perfect link. Obviously, Rufflet is not quite as good as Scizor is, but if you're willing to put in the effort to raise it, then Masamune will become a more potent warlord than ever. And I think it's finally about time that I clarify what I mean whenever I say that. Okay, so there's a point in the main story where you have to get through the kingdoms of Illusio and Terrera, home to Ransai's two most powerful warlords, Kinshin and Shingen. Whenever I tried to invade Illusio, Kinshin literally just said
no,
and I wasn't allowed to fight him. Man, I wish that expertly executed tactic worked in real life. But then he pulls out his Uno reverse card and tries to invade one of my kingdoms. But after successfully defending the place, all of a sudden... Legal becomes based. This is a warrior rank up, which not only raises your warrior's stats, but also upgrades their abilities as well, making them more powerful than ever. In simple terms, it's like an evolution, but for a warlord. Of course, this one for the main character is just acquired through story progression, but all the other major warlords have rank ups as well. And if you want to rank them up, then you're going to have to find their perfect link Pokemon and reach a certain link with them. This is so satisfying to do, but I'm not going to lie, I mainly just try to get these because I love how it changes their designs. Unfortunately, I couldn't get anybody else to rank up in this playthrough despite fulfilling their requirements. Perhaps they're only able to rank up in the post-game, but honestly, that's pretty stupid. But yeah, speaking of which, this whole section of the game is really great too. You take on one of Ransai's most powerful warriors, and even though the odds are heavily stacked against you, with the right strategy and AI manipulation, you're able to claim victory over them. And afterwards, both Kenshin and Shingen join you. And with that, you're finally ready to begin taking on Nobunaga. And dude, the freaking music! Yeah, this second half of the game is pretty freaking sweet. The teams get really big, and overall, the battles feel more grand. I mean, that's sort of expected when we now have two large armies clashing with each other. Though, I feel like this second part of the region does have one problem. The maps really begin to get hit and miss here. Actually, in general, the map design in this game is pretty mixed. Like, there are plenty of decent maps, but some of them, while not bad, can get kinda tedious. Illusio's battlefield has banners you have to capture, but traversing around the place is really sluggish because you have to rely on these portals to get anywhere. And these portals not only randomly shift exits and stuff, but also they take a full turn to travel through. Yaksha has this dumb mechanic where one random Pokemon will occasionally get put into timeout, which is not only just annoying, but also... Okay, all of these maps correspond to a different Pokemon type, and let me ask, what the f does this have to do with the Dark type? Cresselia is pretty cool, actually. You can bounce these huge balls around, and now I'm not allowed to play the game for 2 turns because the floor is not having a good day and wanted to take it out on me. Seriously, what's the point of these traps? I mean, you can't see them coming, and the level already has a gimmick to begin with. It takes too long to get anywhere in Philora, and the level in general has really cramped design. Actually, it feels like that happens a lot, where all of the Pokemon will get all ganged up together and start having an orgy. Okay, one more. Nick Storm. Whoever designed this level can go piss on a bug zapper. So here's the gimmick with this level. Basically, Ice-type Pokemon can traverse it normally. Literally everything else, though, has apparently soaked their whole body in butter because they will slip and slide all over the place. This is not only restrictive movement in a tactical RPG, but also the only way to get around it is to use a Pokemon type that is infamously not that good. One thing I found interesting to do here, however, was using my Lapras as a sort of obstacle to stop various Pokemon in their tracks while they were sliding. That way I could position mine in the way I wanted to. Even with that though, I still really hate this level. I mean, all the other ones have their problems, but this one's the only one I can consider outright bad. As for the finale that ensues afterwards, yeah, it's pretty good. The final fight against Nobunaga himself is really intense, though that's mainly because he has Zekrom, which is a legendary Pokemon. Like, every now and then this game has slight jumps in difficulty, such as the Kenshin and Shingen fights, but this Zekrom freaking carries his team. It's ridiculous. There's nothing really all that special about Dragonor as a map, aside from these nodes that can hurt or heal you. It's just that this Zekrom is so unbelievably powerful that it can just sweep through your whole team in a moment's notice. But with great power comes great stupidity, as Zekrom goes after the wrong target and loses because he's an idiot. After the battle, all of the kingdoms shine a light to this tower, and at the top, we find Arceus, the creator of Ransai. So of course I try to become friends with it, and after befriending it, Nobunaga shows up with several of his most reliable warlords in one final attempt to defeat you. He even busts out his shiny Rayquaza, which he apparently just has. He's not holding back this time. It's time for a battle of the ages. And Arceus carries. Yeah, Arceus is literally overpowered. Its attack is strong and has wide range, and he's absurdly tanky. Also, his ability, Omnipotent, has like 5 billion different effects. I can hit ghost types with normal moves. I get randomly healed. This ability is like when you're playing Pretend with one of your friends and he says, "Oh yeah? Well, I have the super omega death ray that kills everything no matter what." After the fight, Nobunaga tells you about his true intentions. He saw people listening to the Legend of Ransai. They all acted so desperately to get their hands on the legendary Pokemon that they started treating their own Pokemon not as partners, but as tools. Nobunaga wanted to conquer Ransai just to prove that the legend was simply that, a legend, and people were treating their Pokemon poorly for no reason. I like that true motive of his. It's actually kinda cool to see that Nobunaga wasn't evil at all. He's just a really great warrior that values Pokemon a lot and doesn't want to see them get mistreated. Afterwards, all of the kingdoms are relinquished back to their original owners because it was kinda boring being unopposed. So yeah, that's the end. Or is it? Nope, because this game has an unbelievable amount of post-game content. Every single warlord has their own story to play through now. If I'm not mistaken, I think there are almost 40 other shorter stories to play through, ranging from 1 to 3 hours each. These stories can include conquering Ransai, getting a certain amount of Pokemon, and various other objectives. Personally, I love the two where you have to take down Nobunaga's army. They're so fun. Now, some of these are admittedly kinda lame because a good chunk of them will just put you in a small portion of Ransai that you have to conquer. They're meant to be shorter, but I don't think that's very interesting because it doesn't give you much time to make a really powerful team. But the others are pretty dang based. I remember years ago on a car trip, I marathoned most of these, and eventually I did every single one. My playthrough for this video took about 6 hours apparently, but on my main file, I have 150 hours of playtime. I'm dead serious. I really miss when I didn't have more important things to do with my time. Even to this day, I still go back to this game whenever I'm bored. There's always something new for me to work towards. Trying out new Pokemon, grinding for all those rank ups, searching for legendaries. Of course, after a while, it does get a little bit tedious since these stories have a lot of similar objectives, but when I'm in the mood for some Pokemon Conquest, it's a blast, and I know that'll be the case for years to come. Whether it's the main story or the post-game content, there's a plethora of fun to have with this game, and I will not hesitate calling it my favorite Pokemon spin-off. It's honestly criminal that they never made a sequel. With all of the new Pokemon as well as the new type that's been introduced since then, there's a ton of potential. If you're interested in anything I've shown you today, then I highly encourage you to give this game a shot. I know there were plenty of issues that I pointed out, but I will never let those ruin all the enjoyable stuff. Anyway, I guess that's all I really have to say about this underrated little gem. I'm Logo the Luggician, and thank you very much for watching.